So let's get into this Cardinals and Rams battle. I want to start with Ryan Sanudo. He is a beat writer for the Cardinals for Heavy. I want to know like your first impressions or your lasting impressions from this game. I know obviously didn't go your guys' way, but tell me a little bit.
Yeah, last week I think we were talking about what was going to stop the Cardinals in the playoffs, and I told you it was probably going to be home field. I think they were 3-2 heading into the game. I've seen them collapse in previous games to the Panthers, no less, to the Packers. They could have easily won that game, but again, the Vikings earlier in the season they could have very well lost to. So they really have a tough time at home. I mean, I can't really have like a clear explanation for it. I don't even think Kingsbury has an explanation for it. So, I mean, that's what I took away from this game because they're 7-0 on the road, but they're 3-3 at home. It makes absolutely no sense. I feel like Kyler, for some reason, is a little jittery at times. I think the Cardinals are like a -18 when it comes to turnovers on the road, and then it's like +6 or something like that. So they really have a tough time with the turnovers. The pass rush isn't evident at times with Chandler Jones and Marcus Golden. And then offensive line, they got completely disrupted by Aaron Donald. So that was really telling. I feel like when it came to the Rams and Cardinals, the battle of the trenches, that was the complete and utter explanation for this game. I feel like they had points off the board because of the miscommunication with Green in the beginning of the game, and then the tipped interception after that. So I feel like it came down to the trenches, and the Rams beat the Cardinals in both aspects.
Yeah, losing the battle of the trenches. I don't know. I'm not. Sometimes I'm not sure if the playing at home thing is really the issue. If it's just a matter of the matchups that they happen to have gotten at home, but those are the ones that they're losing. I don't know. But Mr. Green, I mean Mr. Boy Green Esden, what do you say?
Man, I got to say, James Conner was like the greatest free agent find in history. They found a couple of pennies under the couch. No one else wanted him, and they invested in this beautiful man who's second in the league in touchdowns, second in rushing touchdowns, and also sprinkle in 2 more receiving touchdowns as well. I mean, man, what a find. He's been such an exceptional player for the Cardinals, and he found, himself in almost a meditation-like desert place. He was able to come back to homeostasis and deliver. Unfortunately, as we have already discussed a little bit, it wasn't enough. I thought the Rams were soft heading in. I was like, man, you know what? They're on a 3-game losing streak. They beat the Jaguars. Does that even count? And then now they play the Cardinals, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Now the Cardinals can slap somebody around. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. And obviously, Ryan mentioned the turnovers. I mean, Kyler, was a little herky-jerky. It was a little too giving, perhaps, at this time of year with the ball, if you catch my drift. But anywho, I mean, the point is this. The Cardinals, all of a sudden, they were on top of the football world with the number 1 seed. Now they have fallen all the way to the 3 seed. So perhaps you'll get your wish at the end, Ryan, if they make a deep playoff run, that maybe they'll be traveling to a Lambeau. Maybe they'll be traveling to a Tampa Bay, and maybe they can test your road theory out and be the road warriors of the WWE they were always meant to be. But at this point, super disappointing. It was underwhelming to see him drop the ball like that in primetime.
Yeah, it definitely was. I'm going to piggyback on some of that when it's my turn. But before that, I would like to hear from Mr. Adams. What was your lasting take on the Monday night matchup?
I'm pondering this, guys. Is it possible? Because it seems like after the Von Miller trade, all we heard about was the Rams. And the Rams being Super Bowl contenders, kind of being the super team. Shout out Vince Young. And then weeks went by and the Rams lost game after game, right? But is it possible? I come away from this game feeling that we're undervaluing the Rams, which is a really weird statement because, 6 weeks ago, it seemed like everyone had the Rams penciled in as the kind of like the sleeper team, not even the sleeper team, as a team that could dethrone the Bucs and the Packers in the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. And now it seems like if you just were in like a time capsule and woke up 6 weeks later, your prediction might actually be true. It might actually be accurate. I think that the Rams are still being slept on just because of the kind of the fog they've been in the last month. And so that's the main thing I take away from the Cardinals' perspective going into this game. And then as we eye the postseason. I'm just wondering if this Cardinals team is going to be one of those teams where they have to get to the postseason and experience it before they can actually make that deep run. And I know Cardinals fans are fearing that because you always hear that. We've seen that with past teams, the Seahawks when they were kind of having their glory days. Other teams in the past years, the Chiefs, for example, where they have that kind of mid to deep run, get knocked out by the Patriots, come back the following year. So I'm wondering if the Cardinals are in that situation. They're going to have a great seed, but is it going to be one of those things where we're going to have a couple games under their belt before they can be a real contender? I don't know that I have an answer for that, but I guess my main takeaway is just the Rams, I think, are being undervalued.
Yeah, I think we have. I think in a lot of ways we have forgotten how talented the Rams roster was or is. And I think what happened is Odell Beckham gets traded there or signs there. And you start to look at, Von Miller being added. And I think many of the casuals who make up a lot of the noise that is, that makes up the discussion around some of these teams expected them to just like go on an immediate run at that point. It's kind of dismissing the whole aspect of getting chemistry together and all these things that we know that are very important to playing winning football. And when that didn't happen immediately, I think people automatically just started to adorn the Cardinals as the best team in the NFC West. And it's like almost like not so fast. The Rams had a chance, needed an opportunity to put things together. And for me, what I noticed from the Monday night game is that in prime time, in pretty much the biggest game of the season for both teams, Matt Stafford flat outplayed Kyler Murray. It's just really he flat outplayed him. You cannot throw those types of interceptions in the red zone, in the end zone there, like Kyler Murray had in one of his picks. That can't happen in this kind of a game. You cannot, first of all, take scoring opportunities off the board, and you cannot give a high-powered offense with so many weapons that type of an opportunity. You can't let them off the hook in that way. And we saw that take place. Also, I looked at how the Cardinals had a very difficult time, obviously, and many teams have this issue, but a difficult time containing Aaron Donald. He was a major factor throughout the entire game, disrupted the inside, like he wrecked the game plan the way we generally expect to see him do. That hadn't been happening as much in the previous games, but he definitely showed up big there. And just the amount of weapons, man, from a passing standpoint. I think this was the first game where I looked at the Rams passing game and I was like, okay, that's starting to look about as dangerous as it appeared they would look when they got Odell Beckham. And obviously the Robert Woods injury was huge, but this looked like, oh my God, for real. This is a really tough set of receivers to contain. And for this game, the Rams look like the better team. So we will see. As we get closer to the even closer to the postseason and then into the postseason, which I expect for both of these teams to be there, we'll find out what's what. But that was my major takeaway from the game. I think more than anything, Stafford outplaying Kyler Murray was the biggest factor.
And this was without Jalen Ramsey, Darrell Henderson. They didn't have their center. They didn't have another offensive lineman. They had two offensive linemen not playing. And the Chandler Joneses, the Marcus Goldens. I think Zach Allen was like the only guy that I actually saw as a disruptor. And I was like, you know what? This can't be happening. And I know J.J. Watt might be coming back soon or maybe in the playoffs. But, I mean, Vance Joseph and their defense, they have to get better. And you can't have your corners be, one-on-one with Cooper Kupp. You can't be relying on Byron Murphy or Marco Wilson, a rookie. You can't be allowing that to happen. You have to have your defensive front on their game. And I think that was the biggest takeaway is that Stafford had plenty of time and he was able to be composed and get the ball to even Van Jefferson on that long route. So I think that was the biggest takeaway with the Rams. And Stafford, I think he had 8 touchdowns, 5 picks in his last 4 games. And yesterday, I think he had one of his best games of his life. So,
yeah, definitely a strong game for Stafford. when they needed it, for sure. And it was definitely a strange game when you look at it from like a third down efficiency standpoint. The Cardinals weren't horrible, 8 for 15 on third downs. It's not terrible. And just the stuff that you generally look at that decides games, it wasn't, it's hard to detect, okay, here's where they went wrong. Here's where they were severely outplayed. That's why I think it came down to some signature style plays and some really big plays being made by the guys who touched the ball on every offensive possession. And that was the quarterback.